there, welcome to Emily Eats Veggies. As promised, I am back with another Spanish tortilla recipe, or as it's also known, tortilla española or Spanish omelet. So last week I made the traditional version with potatoes and eggs, a little healthier because I didn't use quite as much oil as it's traditionally made, but this week I'm going to make an option that is vegan in case you don't eat eggs or can't eat eggs, maybe you have an allergy to them, or maybe you just want to try something new and different. But it's still delicious, still good comfort food, still a great filling snack or breakfast or a small meal. Like you can really use it for any occasion. It is still high in protein because instead of eggs, we are substituting those for chickpea flour or garbanzo flour. They're the same thing. But basically it's garbanzo beans that have been dried and pulverized into a powder, and then you mix it with water and it actually behaves very similarly to eggs. And it still has a savory taste to it, unlike some other egg substitutes. Also, I'm going to introduce you today to black salt, which is an option if you would like to make it even more savory and have more of that eggy flavor to it, but it's really optional, up to you. If you're not going to use it very much, I wouldn't recommend buying it for only this recipe, but it is something to consider, especially if you are vegan or not eating eggs. So anyways, it has been a while since I have made this particular recipe, a vegan tortilla. So I looked up a recipe online. I will link that below in the description. I'm not taking credit for this recipe, but I'm loosely following it. And it also provides a healthier option other than the more traditional form of frying the tortilla in olive oil. A slightly healthier option. You still need some oil to cook it, and adds flavor. So without further ado, let's get to the recipe. So just like last time, we're going to start with about 4 potatoes, or maybe 2 pounds of potatoes, and we're going to peel them. Alright, here we go. Okay, so once the potatoes are clean, you can begin slicing them. These slices shouldn't be too thick because if the slices are too thick, they'll take too long to cook, but at the same time, if they're too thin, they might just fall apart in the pan and you just have like potato mush. So about this is fine, you know, not too thin, not too thick. Maybe a centimeter or 2 if you have a ruler handy, but I just eyeball it. If you really want to make this tortilla a little healthier or lower calorie, I also know somebody who makes it using zucchini instead of potatoes, and it works out just fine. So here's my potatoes, all sliced up. If you're not sure whether your potatoes are too thick or if they need to be thinner, just hold them up to the light and see if you can see light through the slice, and if you can, it's probably going to be fine. So I'm just adding a couple of tablespoons for flavor, a little olive oil, and the sliced potatoes. Okay, I'm also adding about a cup of water. So essentially we're steaming these potatoes. And cover with a lid. For added flavor, I'm also going to dice up half of an onion. If you ever have trouble with onions making you cry, a really easy trick to prevent that is just throw the onion into the freezer for a few minutes, and when it's cold, then you can dice it, and the juices won't emit any fumes to burn your eyes. So as you can see, you want pretty small pieces of onion. You don't want anyone to bite into just a big bunch of onions, so break them up pretty small, and then these are ready to saute. Okay, so like I said, we are going to be using something called black salt, or by its proper name, it's called kala namak. See? So it's called black salt, but it's really got more of a pinkish hue to it. This has a very strong flavor, very savory, eggy, almost like sulfur flavor to it. So not for desserts by any means. And a little bit goes a long ways. You do not want to overdo it. I bought this bag a long time ago, and I still have enough left for a lifetime. So unless you're really addicted to this stuff, it should last you a long time. That's why I mentioned, like, if it's not that important to you, the eggy flavor or taste, I wouldn't recommend buying this. But if it is something that you think that you could get a lot of use out of, then by all means go for it. It's a great ingredient to have on hand for that. And I like to keep mine in this little jar, so it's handy and within reach while cooking. Yeah, so basically you can use kala namak or black salt for any savory dish that you would normally make with eggs. So say scrambled eggs, frittata, quiche, yeah, so it's just extra seasoning, to boost it a little bit. Like for instance, one thing that I make are tofu scrambles. You just scramble up some tofu with some fresh veggies, add a little bit of black salt in there, and it gives it a really great flavor. So those are just a few ideas of how you would actually use it. Another ingredient that we're going to be using today is garbanzo flour or chickpea flour. Whichever term or name you prefer is fine. I keep mine in this little jar here labeled, but just when I went to the store yesterday, I actually found a bag of it, and it actually wasn't that expensive, so I was pretty surprised by that. And I think as more and more people are trying to transition to gluten-free or plant-based, things like this product are becoming more and more available and easier to find. If you do have trouble finding it, try looking in your ethnic aisle, more cultural foods or Asian foods. Maybe if you go to an Asian market, you might find it there. But also vegan markets normally have this on hand. So it might take going to a specialty market or looking in the special foods aisle at your local grocery store, but you should be able to find it, and it's not too expensive. Some of the great things about garbanzo flour is it's very high in protein, so you can use it as a flour alternative, for instance if you're gluten-free, but it's actually much higher protein than normal wheat flour. This bag, for instance, says for every 100 grams you get over 20 grams of protein, which is just incredible. Of course, it's low in fat and high in fiber, which is also really great for you. Yeah, awesome ingredient to have on hand if you're looking for something new to try. As the potato and onion are both cooking on the stove, you can prepare the garbanzo flour. You need equal parts garbanzo flour to water, and we're going to mix those in a bowl with a little bit of salt and black salt if you're using it. So the recipe calls for 16 tablespoons of both garbanzo flour and water, but I measured it out, so equal parts flour to water. And I measured it out, and the water is roughly 200 milliliters if you want to save yourself time. And the garbanzo flour is a really heaping 1 cup, or maybe a cup plus a third of a cup-ish. You don't really have to be that exact, as long as it's about equal parts water to garbanzo flour, you're probably gonna be fine. So pouring that in, because it didn't quite fit all into 1 cup. I'm gonna take a fork and just sift it a little bit to get the clumps out. It's looking pretty good. So we're gonna pour in the water, and you just kind of whisk it together. See, it's already starting to look like egg. It's even got the right color. I'm gonna add about 1/2 teaspoon of salt, normal regular table salt, and about 1/8 of a tablespoon of black salt. Remember, don't overdo the black salt. Start with 1/8. If it's not strong enough for you, you could always add more later. Yeah, make sure it's well mixed. Now we add the potatoes to the bean mixture. And don't forget the onion. This is just quickly sauteed until soft. Okay. And then you just mix it all together. Try to be careful not to break up the potatoes too much. But you need to make sure they're all well covered. Okay, this is looking pretty good. So we are going to transfer this back into the pan. Make sure it's a non-stick pan if you have one, and just add a couple tablespoons of olive oil. And once that's hot, you can transfer this into the pan. Okay, just like before, make sure you flatten it out. Right? You need a nice flat surface, and try to fill in the gaps as best you can. Alright, so this is looking pretty good already. Alright, once it's moving, sliding around a bit, it's ready to flip. Alright, here we go. Take the plate and fit it over the pan, okay? Also, best done with some pot holders. Second pot holder. Alright, plate on top, pot holders on both sides. And it's time to flip. 3, 2, 1. It takes a little practice. Okay, let's see how well we did. And hopefully I don't burn myself. Ta-da! Oh, it's not even burnt or anything. Check that out. Isn't that pretty? Don't drop it, don't drop it, don't drop it. Oh, so pretty. Okay, we've got to cook the other side though. We're not done yet. Ever so gently slide the tortilla back into the pan. Be careful. Oh, there we go. Alright, let that cook maybe a couple of minutes longer, just until it's well done. Alright, once the tortilla is cooked, just slide it back onto the plate. Beautiful. See, it looks like real tortilla. Egg-free, gluten-free, and vegan. Congratulations.